Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Chip Rogers, the Chief Executive Officer of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and we are talking about summer travel. We're really expecting a big increase in summer travel. We're starting to emerge from some of the worst parts of the pandemic, when the pandemic had us all locked down, stationary really, and not traveling during the normally busy travel seasons of the year. So now as we start to emerge from that time, what is expected to happen to the summer travel season this year?
It's going to be big. There are some things that would concern us. I'll get into that in just a minute. But the demand for summer travel is significant. People, as you mentioned, in large part have been cooped up for a while, unable to travel for a number of reasons, and they are exercising their ability to travel right now. And you're seeing some record numbers in certain parts of the country, and that's wonderful. There are some concerns out there about historically high gas prices, what that might do to travel. But what we have found typically is that all it means is someone will drive a shorter distance, but they're still going to get out of their house. They still want to go to the beach. So if you live here in the Washington, D.C. area, maybe you were planning on going all the way to Florida. Maybe now you only go to North Carolina, maybe you go to the beach in Maryland, but you're still going to get out and travel. And so we are expecting a record number of people to get out of their house and into a hotel, which is a good thing.
So let's break it down. There are two different types of travel that you're concerned with, and that is the vacations, the leisure travel, and then the business travel. So let's start with the vacations. People are planning vacations again, family vacations, going out, staying in hotels?
Absolutely, and this has really been a strong part of our industry, even in the early stages of the pandemic, because the only places people were going back then, say the summer of 2020, was to those beach destinations, somewhere where they could be outside, because people were obviously fearful of being inside. And so if you had a mountain destination, a lake destination, or a beach destination, you probably did pretty good even in 2020. 2021 was a big boom right in the heart of the summer months, and now this might be the biggest leisure travel season that we've ever seen before. We've not seen the business traveler come back at the same level. We've not seen the conferences and conventions come back at the same level. But if you're just looking at those people who are going on vacation, they're doing it more so this year than maybe at any time in the past.
And you might have to speculate a little bit on this, but why do you think the business travel is lagging behind when you look at the comparison between people going out for vacations and people going and traveling for business?
I think the biggest reason, and you can see it and feel it right here in the heart of Washington, D.C., is that a lot of people that normally work in the inner city are not back in their offices full time yet. I think most offices are open now, but they're not open 5 days a week. And so what that does, it just restricts the number of people coming in and out and doing business travel. You're not going to have a business meeting where you drive to somebody's house. Now, a good idea might be to have those meetings in hotels. We're all for that. But that has limited some of the business travel. The flip side of that, which is a new term that has been created over the last few years, is called bleisure, which is the mixing of business and leisure. So what's happening in the marketplace is people who would normally go on a business trip on, say, a Tuesday and a Wednesday are now either getting there on a Monday or they're staying there late on a Thursday and attaching leisure travel to that business trip because they can work from anywhere. We think that's good for the industry. It's great for travel. We hope that's one trend that comes out of this pandemic that sticks around for quite some time.
And this is a good question for you because you would really know this. When people travel, they do different things. If you're traveling for a business trip, as you just said, you do different things than if you're going on vacation. So when you think about how the leisure travel is up, business travel is remaining steady or maybe still down, how does that impact the hotel industry? Because people on vacation, they do different things when they're in a hotel. People on business trips, they do different things when they're in a hotel. So when you look at that difference, how does that affect things differently?
It does. Hotels, prior to the pandemic, about 55% of revenue was created from non-leisure travel. That's a conference, a meeting, a convention, or just a traditional business trip. And so that mix has changed dramatically. And the business traveler, they're less price conscious, so they will spend whatever the hotel needs because location to them is the most important thing. They've got to be near where they're doing their business. Mm-hmm. The second part is that, especially with conferences and large meetings, is you're going to have food and beverage activities taking place in the hotel, which creates lots of jobs. Those things aren't happening because consumers are either eating out, which is great, or they're getting delivery service into their room. And so those things have all changed. But again, going back to the bleisure traveler, what's interesting now is that if you're a business traveler coming to Washington, D.C., and you had business here on a Tuesday and Wednesday, and now you know that your hometown team happens to be in town, they're going to play the Nats, and it's going to be on
not?
Thursday.
Why not go?
Stay for an extra day. You can work from the hotel room and still go to the Nats game. And we're seeing that type of mixture of business and leisure, and that's very helpful.
So do you think there's a trend of companies trying to get back to normal so meetings can happen face-to-face again?
Well, if they've not recognized it yet, they better soon recognize it, because all the statistics tell us that face-to-face business is obviously the best way to do business. In fact, even millennials, who are the largest percentage, the largest group that make up employees today, 80% say they prefer face-to-face meetings. We actually commissioned a study of San Diego State University to study specifically this issue of face-to-face meetings versus the digital virtual meeting. And businesses that do face-to-face meetings ultimately do better. And so if you're going to get out there and sell your product or service, or if you're going to convince someone, like there's a lot of lobbying that goes on in this town, it's much better to do it face-to-face. So we think that'll ultimately always win out. Is there a place for technology? Absolutely. And people have adjusted the way they do business to that. But at the end of the day, face-to-face is always the best way to go.
And I suppose it's just more, naturally it's more personable. You're right there with the person, and I suppose it probably just works better for a meeting. I mean, there's no better way to say it, right?
Absolutely.
Just better.
It's better.
Better than talking to a screen.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're doing this together,
Sure,
and not
absolutely.
not using a technology, because it's better to do it this way. And humans are built that way, right? I mean, there are limitations to what technology can do. And if you've got a really important meeting, I'm not going to trust it to doing it on a virtual call. I'm going to be there in person and have that discussion. And hotels are built and ready to welcome those business travelers back. What we really need to see is more people back in the office, which is good. There's going to be different levels of flexibility. We understand that. But mixing that office time with the business travel and the leisure travel, that will get us back economically to where we were before the pandemic.
And you said that this summer travel's really going to go up compared to last year, and I suppose when you compare it to 2020 especially, right?
Oh, significantly higher than 2020. In fact, we expect from a leisure standpoint, travel this year to be higher than at any point in the past. And so you're going to see the occupancy levels at hotels right where they were in 2019. In fact, from a revenue standpoint, not adjusting for inflation, but from a revenue standpoint, just over the last few weeks, we're back to 2019 levels overall. But there is significant inflation, so we need those numbers to continue to go up.
So you said record numbers for leisure travel, is that right?
Record numbers for leisure travel. The only thing that could really hamper that is inflation getting to the point where people have to start making decisions of cutting back on travel and or gas prices that just get so high. But we've not seen that yet, so hopefully we're going to be okay.
I was just going to mention gas prices. Yeah. You drive past the signs every day, the numbers keep on going up, right?
They keep going up, yeah, that is a concern. But again, what people have done in the past is when gas prices have been high in the summer, they just make that trip a little closer to home.
And when you have more travel and more hotel activity, that means more impact to the economies surrounding those hotels. Can you explain the tax revenue that goes into people going to hotels and the increase that we're going to see with activity at hotels? That must really be an important, significant impact for tax revenue that the hotels generate.
Oh, hundreds of billions of dollars for federal, state, and local taxes overall across the country. Think about walking into a hotel and you pay for your room. You're going to pay a city tax, perhaps an occupancy tax, a sales tax, which might be levied by the state. Then, of course, the person earning the money working at the hotel, they're going to ultimately pay income tax. The hotel itself is going to pay income tax. And then the hotel, because these are very expensive, large pieces of property, are going to pay significant property taxes that go straight to the local government. So when you begin to add all that up, you can see a serious financial impact on state, local, and federal government by the transactions and the activity that's happening in and around a hotel. That's before you get to the fact that someone who spends $100 as a hotel spends $222 outside of that hotel on food, entertainment, and other items.
So just to wrap things up here, the morale within the industry, I have to imagine that it was very low during the pandemic, but now that you're seeing these numbers and the projections, how are things looking now just in terms of the feeling and the morale in your industry?
Everybody's in a better place than they were. I think early in the pandemic, people didn't even know if we were going to survive. Then it kind of transitioned to how long is it going to take us to survive? And I think in many places people say, okay, we're back. Washington, D.C. is not fully back, but people see a light at the end of the tunnel. And so, yes, the morale is better. We need a lot more employees. That would certainly help. I tell people all the time, if you've ever thought about joining the industry, now is the time, because the pay is better than it's ever been. The benefits are better than they've ever been. and the opportunity is better than it's ever been.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank today's guest, Chip Rogers, the Chief Executive Officer of the American Hotel and Lodging Association. I'm your moderator, Nick Iannelli. For more on this discussion, visit WTOP.com and search AHLA.